This month's challenge had two goals. First was to find as many vulnerabilities in two different drone models, and then to try to exploit these vulnerabilities for command and control and the onboard video systems. Goal 2 is to produce new exploits and delivery mechanisms, and the drones that we were using were available from OpenWERX for checkout. Our team used both of the drone models for approximately 3 days each. The drones themselves were based on the DJI product line. The first one is a DJI Phantom 3, which has been on the market for a couple of years and is pretty well known. The second one is the DJI Phantom 4, which is a new model, which has only been available for a short time. We'll start with the discussion about the Phantom 3. With the Phantom 3, we found vulnerabilities in the SSID, in the MAC address, passwording, the fixed IP addresses. FTP was active and available to outside users. The file system is accessible. We were able to access deletion, insertion. We were able to find the executables. We were able to find the data files. We could access the do not fly list. We could access the return to home file and the file access rights. In addition to these vulnerabilities, it's also possible to perform a denial of service attack on this particular drone. We were also able to use AirCrack and to discover the devices on line and on their network, and are able to exploit them with that. Since we were able to use AirCrack, this drone is also vulnerable to Skyjack, which is a script that uses AirCrack first to discover the drone, decouple it from its host, and then insert an alternate controller in as a host, and basically to mimic the native host and to take over the drone. We are also familiar with the kill command that could shut down this drone in midair. We were unable to access a executable while the drone was in the air, but given a little more time, we're confident that we could have inserted the kill command and caused the drone to fall out of the air. The drone is also uses GPS for station keeping and return to home, and GPS jamming is also a vulnerability for this drone. We could also have jammed the Wi-Fi frequencies since this drone uses the commonly available 2.4 gigahertz and 5.8 gigahertz frequencies. And we could also have possibly performed a jamming on the camera. If in the case where we were using first-person view, we could take over the drone or deny access to the camera for the first person. And this drone is also based on a publicly available phone app, and so the phone app itself is vulnerable to Trojans, viruses, and spyware. It's possible that given time we could compromise the phone application and take over the drone using that. In what we actually did do, I'll mention some of the bigger exploits that we were able to perform. We were able to find the MAC address of this drone without connecting to the drone or the network. We know that DJI was the manufacturer of the drone, so we were able to obtain the OUI portion of the MAC address online. When we accessed our Wi-Fi networks, the last 6 digits of the SSID of the drone were the rest of the MAC address. So we obtained the MAC address without connecting to the network or to the drone itself. So we were easily able to obtain the SSID since it's broadcast in the Wi-Fi band, and then we already knew the MAC. Knowing these two things, we could then use AirCrack on the drone to exploit it. We were able to FTP into the drone since the passwords were simple and widely available online. And so we were able to FTP into the drone while it was in flight. Although the user was jailed in the temp directory, we were able to access the directories and files on both the controller and the drone. We could see the executables, we could see the data files. We were able to access return to home files, do not fly zones, and ultimately we were able to locate the busy box, which is the executable for the basically the operating system on the drone, and we were able to deny access to that using change mod. We set change mod 000, and then on the next boot up, the drone was the camera was rendered useless, and firmware had to be reloaded on that drone to recover it. But we could read, write, and delete files, and we could change accesses to files. Also, while it was in the air, we could access the camera and download files and upload new files in their place. So we're showing here a picture that we took in flight with the drone and downloaded it. And we could have replaced it with the picture on the right, which is just a blank screen that says it was hacked by Tampa Deep Sea Explorers. As mentioned before, BusyBox was used on the drone, and given a little more time, we feel that we could exploit BusyBox extensively, since it's commonly available and well documented online. But we did use change mod on it. We turned it off. Once BusyBox was off, the camera quit working. Also, the drone was unable to initialize its network connection, and then we were unable to FTP into the drone to change it back. So the firmware had to be reloaded to fix that problem. We like this exploit quite a bit because it emulates a hardware problem, not a software problem. We didn't delete any files, so it might take a considerable amount of time to locate the files that were changed. You would have to basically do a list, a detailed list, and go through and verify the accesses on the files. As mentioned, we were able to use aircrack to compromise the network, and we were also able to mount a Pi Zero with aircrack and Skyjack software onto a friendly drone, and we were able to loft that into the air so that we could get close enough to the drone to attack it with these softwares. We did this for the Phantom 3 and the Phantom 4. We found the vulnerabilities in the Phantom 3. Phantom 4 was considerably more difficult, and we were unable to exploit it using aircrack. We are confident that the Phantom 3 is vulnerable to Wi-Fi jamming and GPS jamming. We did not conduct these tests due to FCC and FAA regulations. However, our team does possess the necessary tools to do so, and could have done it if the laws permitted. Okay, the Phantom 4 is a considerably newer and higher end model than the Phantom 3, and is considerably more secure. The MAC addresses are not printed on any labels on the external of the drone. The SSID is not broadcast to the Wi-Fi network, so we were unable to obtain the MAC address easily for this drone. So it looks like DJI has learned some lessons from the Phantom 3. We are confident, however, that the Phantom 4, since it's still using 2.4 gigahertz communications channel, would be susceptible to frequency jamming. It also uses GPS for its stabilization and return to home, as well as the no-fly list, and so it would also be vulnerable to GPS jamming. The camera signal is sent from the drone to the controller and then passed to the phone app via a hard connection. So the phone is not as vulnerable as it was on the Phantom 3. However, we're sure that given time we could compromise the first-person view of the camera and jam the video signal. The phone app is also publicly available and is susceptible to decompiling and Trojans, viruses, and spyware. We attempted to locate the drone. What we did find was that the Phantom 4 uses a 40 kilohertz. As I mentioned previously, we feel that the phone application, since it's publicly available, is vulnerable to compromise. And given time, we could most likely decompile that and find exploits in the application. In addition, since we had trouble finding the network, as we previously mentioned, both drones use common communications frequencies, which are susceptible to jamming and which have been widely done. So taking all this together, we feel that as a team that the best solution to combat both drones is to build a small group of hunter-killer drones designed to jam GPS, Wi-Fi, and the controller signals. These hunter-killers could be small, dedicated purpose type drones that could be easily portable into an area that you want to defend from a drone in surveillance. The hunter-killers could also be equipped to use aircrack and skyjack software to defeat the P3s. The package needed to do that is very light, probably less than 200 grams. The one that we built was probably 300 grams. It's possible we could consolidate all of that into a single chip with a transmitter and a battery and make it very compact. In addition to the hunter-killers, we feel that hunter-killers could be deployed by ground personnel, or that if they're made small enough, we could deploy them using a low-velocity projectile device. This is what our team calls the Projectile Deployed Defensive Drone, or PROD. Any questions?